So this video is going to be a quick overview of the Mass Effect Andromeda Krogan model that I ported a little while back. Now when you download the zip file, that's going to be this zip file here. It's going to have two folders, two blend files, and two rig scripts. The folders are going to be the original meshes and the textures file. The original meshes are exactly what it says. It's the original meshes straight out of the game, and the textures are the textures for the models. It's then going to contain two different blend files and two different rig scripts. Now the blend files are kind of labeled as what they're meant to be. V3.5, this one here, is for versions of Blender 3.5 and kind of earlier. With the Blender 4.0 update, the switch over from the bone layer system to the bone collection system broke a lot of things, and they're not really that compatible with each other. If you built rigs for one system, you have to make a lot of changes to them to make them work in later systems. So if you're using an older version of Blender, use this blend file with this rig script. If you're using a newer version of Blender, use this blend file with this rig script. Anyway, now if you open up the file itself, you will see we have our model. This has every single armor option in Mass Effect Andromeda for Krogan. Every single head, including the helmet, all the torso armor, all the torso armor options, the flare, the backpack, all the different armor options for the arms, and all the different armor options for the legs. All this rig here is just, it's a basic rigify rig. What sets this model apart is that you have all these different appearance options here, and these bones here always show up as long as the root visibility is enabled. You will use these bones and the properties that are present here for them in setting the appearance of this model, because by default it looks kind of bland. If you switch to material preview, you'll see, there we go, it's just kind of like boring white, nothing that special about it. But that's kind of how it's supposed to look by default. That's actually how Mass Effect Andromeda's material system works. It has a basic white diffuse layer, and then it uses the Frostbite engine's own material settings to apply colors using textures that define where in the model should be colored. And using those textures, I've set up these materials and these armor pieces to work basically in the same way. So how does that work? Well, every time you change up a model, it's going to be reloading its texture if you're in material preview, so I actually recommend at first starting in solid view. And so in this option, what you can do is you can set up the head type, the torso armor type, left leg, right leg. Actually, it's the other way around. That's the left leg, that's the right leg. Left pauldron. No, yes, left. I'm getting switch up. Left pauldron, left arm, forearm. Right pauldron, right forearm. All these options you're seeing here will all change something that's going on with it. So for the head, you can change the head type to, you want it to be no head.
So no head.
Male head, feminine head, Drac, the secret third gender, and helmeted head. Those are the only model options you can do here. But now, if you switch to the material preview, not the wireframe material preview, you can use all of these options here for the helmet 4A through 7B to change all of the appearance values for this model. You want to make it look interesting? You want to make it look ugly as shit? I'm very good at making things look ugly as shit. You can change all of that however you want it to, including the camo layer. You want to change the metal layer, make it look like it's golden? You can do that. Want to change the color and the intensity of the lights? Well, you can do that too. You can make it like a blue color, and the intensity goes all the way from 0 all the way up to 100 as the max. And you can do that for basically everything. So if we go back to solid view now, let's change up the armor. We can change the base body is nothing, just the neck. So there's this little weird neck piece that's in the game, that's the neck. You can change it to the regular base under model, the regular base under armor model, and Drac. Drac's armors don't have a lot of options to them. You can change, I think, the metal, but not a lot else. But there he is, there's Drac for you. But normally you're probably going to work with this base under armor. This is your base civilian under armor. On top of this is what you apply all of your different armor options. So for example, let's say you want heavy armor. Well, now there's your heavy armor. There's only one, so it's only on and off. What about the flare, the little shaman bone flare? That's available too, or the belt. Now, all of these should be set up with their contingencies. So, for example, this belt only works with the heavy armor torso enabled. Same thing with the flare. So if you disable it, those go away as well, even though here they are set to be configured. That way you're not going to have to hunt down where a hidden visibility option is in case you forget to disable something if you're changing out a bunch of different options. And you can also do the backpack. Backpack is not contingent on the torso armor, but it is there. And you can set it up however you want, and you can do that with all of these different body parts. You want this armor to be heavy armor, but you want this one to be more the greebled armor, which is this one. You can do that. This one, let's put this one to be the heavy armor, and this one to be the greebled. There we go. And then for the legs, this one shall be heavy, and then this one shall be the various different options for like thigh and torso. So let's enable both of them. And now that we have that all set up, let's go back to the head. I don't want that head to be that color. Let's use the feminine head. It's ugly as shit, but that's what Krogan are. They're designed to be ugly. They're supposed to be ugly. And they're beautiful in their ugliness. And then switch back to material preview and wait for all the textures to load. Now that the shaders have compiled, we can see this is how we've configured our model now. Now we have to set up the colors. So with the face, again, 4A through 7B here only affects the helmet. All of these are what affects the face. So you can change the skin color. I would recommend not changing these to be too extreme because they look weird. Change the shell color a little bit. And there's also shell and face paint. So the paint options you have can all be set with their own colors. And same thing with shell paint. And then if you go back to the armor, the torso, now you can set all the colors for this. And I'm not going to go through every single option here. Just keep in mind that the base under armor that is underneath everything has its own separate set of colors than some of the other options. So as you're configuring it, you may notice that like not everything is being configured. Not all the colors are matching, and that's kind of intentional to give you as many options to customize it as you want. If you want this Krogan to be a rainbow beast with every single part of the body being a different color, you can absolutely do that if you want to. If you don't, just set up the color that you want on the base armor and then copy it over. Like for example, I'll do this here. Let's say like this was the color I wanted for, like that color was what I wanted for the heavy armor. Well, I can do that. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And now that's available on the heavy armor as well. And then you just do that between the different options. It might take a little bit more time, but it preserves your ability to retain absolute control over the color of all of the different options. So yeah, you have a metric shit ton of different configuration options you can do here. I think I did the math once, and like if you're just ignoring colors and just looking at armor pieces, there's technically something like millions of different possible ways of actually configuring these armor pieces. But if you are interested in what each thing is, what options there are, what each of these options do, this text file here shows the details of how everything works. It's a bit much, but it does show how everything works. A word of warning, yes, this was built with Rigify. Yes, that means, if you know what you're doing, here's the meta rig. This is the meta rig that was used to generate the Rigify rig. Unless you are absolutely sure you know what you are doing, do not touch this. Do not regenerate the rig. The reason being is when you do that, you run the risk of losing all of these drivers. All of these different things are set up using drivers to control the materials and the visibility options. And when you regenerate the rig, you run the risk of deleting those. Beyond just the drivers, I also spent quite a bit of time going into the actual rig itself and changing how some of the rig options were set up because of the way that scaling and squashing and stretching didn't quite work for some bones. Not all of them, but some of them. And it's enough that if you were to regenerate the rig, all that would go away. So if you tried to do some, stretching of the limbs, some of the armors and some of the bone pieces or model pieces may not operate the way that you want it to. So don't regenerate the rig if you can avoid that. Perhaps most importantly, though, How do you use this in your own project? You're probably not going to want to open this file and start building your project straight from this. You probably might have an environment already set up, or a different file, or a template you want to work from, and you want to import this model into. Well, how do I do that? Well, everything is set up to be within a single collection. So if you open up a brand new file, let's do that here. In order to get that model into your new scene, you just append, find the file, go to Collections, MEA Krogan, append it, and you're done. This model is now in here. Some of the sub-collection appearance options don't carry over. You don't need that. You don't need any of the widget collections, so just disable those so they stop annoying you. And you don't need the meta rig, so disable that. And now you should have it imported. If these rig options don't show up, they should, but if they don't, you're going to want to run the rig script, and that's just a simple matter of running into the text editor. And then this rig here. This rig should have carried over when you imported the model. If it didn't, it's the same rig scripts that are right here. You want 4.0 if you're using 4.0 and 3.5 if you're using 3.5. Hit run, and then you should have those options. All the appearance options are still set up, and they still operate and work as well. And so it's just a matter of import your model into the scene, set up and configure the appearance options however you like, and then pose it, do whatever you like. Anyway, that's how you use it. I mainly did this video because I've seen many times people using this model in arts where they just leave everything at default. All the appearance options are set up as default in their arts. And far be it from me to tell you as an artist what to do, but Jesus fucking Christ. If I'm going to put this much effort into designing a model that has all these different configuration options so that you can literally design your own OC in Blender, and you're not even going to touch it? Anyway, that's how you use the model, and that's basically how you're going to be able to use the Turian model once I get done with that one too. So, yeah.